I've only got one hand available. Hey, what's happening? Welcome to Mates TV. I'm still in Amsterdam after Liverpool beat Ajax 3-0. But I wanted to have a little chat about one of the things that's kind of been heavy as a talking point over the last couple of weeks, and I think increasingly so after the game as well, and that is Liverpool's formation. So, and I've long stated this, I'm a huge believer in 4-3-3. The general belief being, I think 4-3-3 is the formation. It's the elite formation. And there's different ways of playing it, of course, but in very broad terms, the top teams aim to get towards that. And to get to that, you've got to go through a process. So that process could be 3 at the back for a while, 3-5-2 or a variation thereon, or it could be 4-2-3-1. So lots of teams that are transitioning from being mid-table and bottom end of the European qualification spectrum go through the process of 4-2-3-1 to become a dominant side, because how that tends to go is you start off as a counter-attacking side. So you get a goal scorer and you get some pace in your team, and you've got some good football and you want to instill possession-based tactics, but you haven't quite got the quality of footballer and you haven't had yet the time to put the training in to really get to be an all-in possession football team. And also you're kind of a bit of an unknown entity as well, so teams will naively come and attack you because you've been a bit crap and you've been a bit beatable, so teams will chance their arm and leave themselves exposed the back, leaving themselves capable of being counter-attacked. And obviously, as you go through it, you've got to improve your team. And where some teams plateau, and we've seen this a lot with Manchester United over the last few years, they haven't got the recruitment right, so they've never really been able to transition from being the counter-attacking team. That look, there's a limit to how many points you can earn when you're that kind of side. You can definitely get Champions League qualification, but you're really fighting for 4th place to get in there, and then you really need to kick on when you do. But there's a narrow window to make that big step up, and they've missed that a couple of times, probably more than a couple of times when you think about the managers they've gone through. But yeah, what happens is your team gets better, and at the same sort of time, everyone else gets wise to you. So they stop being naive and they stop throwing bodies at you, because they stop thinking that you can get beaten, you can get battered. And they also see this is a counter-attacking team. Well, they've got a big reputation if you're a big football club, and all of a sudden, your football carries with it a warning that you're going to get spanked on the counter. Then you'll start to go, well, you know what, a point will be good for us, or we'll sit deep and we'll park the bus, and that becomes the next challenge. And what sort of faced Liverpool this season is a little bit of undercutting of that, because, and look, some of this is clearly recruitment based. Having another fresh, younger, more energetic body in the midfield would have allowed Liverpool to maintain that high tempo play through the middle. But also it's more heavily undercut, I still believe, by injuries to players in other parts of the pitch. We saw this with the defence a couple of seasons ago, but Liverpool have had injuries all over the park this season. And, most pressingly in midfield, but also at the back, and also at fullback, and also in the attacking positions. And now, certainly, we've lost a lot of quality in attack with no Diaz and no Jota until the new year. Big, huge misses for Liverpool. Now, what Liverpool have done is been pragmatic about the situation. And, a lot of people have talked about Jurgen Klopp and the 7-year thing at Dortmund and Mainz, blah, 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 not taking any account of how those things kind of came about. And one thing I think you can see already is Jurgen Klopp's not a man who makes the same mistakes often, or maybe even at all. Having gone through Dortmund and the nightmare that was his last season, which would have left a bit of a mental scar, he's a much more rounded manager. He's got a much better, more integrated coaching staff around him now, and he's got better players across the board in the squad, and a bunch of absolute winners as well, and obviously more money to have spent on those players along the line. So yeah, he's better positioned to, if it feels like it's going to go down the Dortmund path, make those changes and reboot it now. Learn lessons from things that have happened in the past, and that feels a little bit like what we're doing. As I say, Liverpool are being more pragmatic around how they set up, and Jurgen often talks about how formation's it's kind of a bit irrelevant. It's a very, very simplistic way of looking at football, because ultimately you've got when you're in possession, and you've got when the ball's in certain areas of the pitch, and certain triggers in a game that require players to be in different positions. We could talk about Liverpool's fullbacks all the time. if you showed someone from the 70s or 80s the average position of Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson over the last 5 years at Liverpool, they would not call. And you said they're a fullback, they'd laugh in your face. They said, that's not where fullbacks play on the field. That's where midfielders play. That's where right mids play and left mids play, and so on and so forth. So yeah, you take my point on that, is that it's not about formation, it's about game state, and it's about what you're trying to achieve at any given moment, and it's about style of play as much as anything. But what Liverpool are having to do, and what we found, so when Liverpool had the injury crisis early on in the season, Jurgen said, I could possibly change formation to kind of fix this problem, but we actually don't have enough fit players to do it. When we started to get players back, i.e. Jota, and obviously Nunez's final suspension, which was his own fault, of course, ended, Liverpool all of a sudden didn't have enough midfielders to really play three, but what they had was enough forwards to play four. Now, what's happened now is, well, no Diaz, no Jota, and you're left with a situation a la Nottingham Forest where Carvalho and Elliott are playing wide and Salah's playing through the middle, which on paper, there's nothing wrong with that. But you've gone from having 3 20-goal-a-season forwards in your team to 1, and that makes a big difference when you're coming up against any team at Premier League level, because you can shut one player down and maybe shut another down. But Liverpool always succeeded because, like, you'd shut Salah down, but how are you shutting Firmino down? Okay, well, you're shutting Firmino down. Are you going to shut Mane down? No, you're not going to shut all of them down. And Liverpool have had to struggle through in this last couple of weeks. And what I thought was really interesting is I wondered whether we would see a return to 4-3-3, because Naby Keita's back in training, Oxlade-Chamberlain is back in training, Harvey Elliott continues to be an absolute star, Curtis Jones is back in again as well, and Milner's now, of course, in a situation where he can be what Milner should be, is that be a bit part player and come in and help the team in a variety of situations, but not be a nailed on starting multiple 90 minutes within the space of a number of days. Might we see us shift back closer to what we've done more traditionally? But actually what was interesting, because I felt for a period during Ajax that's what Liverpool had done. Jordan Henderson looked like left of the midfield, Harvey Elliott looked right of the midfield. But when you saw how the layout was, they started kind of 4-4-2-ish, and Darwin was quite wide on the left, and then it shifted to who's a little bit more central, and Klopp even referenced it was more of a diamond in midfield. Now, we get sweet on these things because obviously when things get talked about a lot, you become quite wedded to it. I was chatting to a taxi driver the other day and he was saying about 4-2-4/4-4-2. This is it now, this is the formation. It's like, well, it might be, but when you change formation, you lose a lot of the fine margins. You lose a lot of the small things that have been trained, the second nature of it, the ability to play a blind pass over your shoulder because you know that your mate is going to be running into that situation to capitalise on it. You lose that when you do change formation, you do change shape. Not totally, but at the top end of the game, those very fine margins is what have kept Liverpool as a truly elite side and not one that's just in the European Champions League sort of pack. What I think is interesting and what Wednesday night in Amsterdam showed me, first and foremost, treat football fans with respect. UEFA and police, be soft, let them just, be chill and let them enjoy the game. And I'm not saying this is a case for legalising certain things, but it was a very mellow, very enjoyable crowd. Anyway, by the way, what Liverpool might need to do, I don't think there's a magic bullet formation given Liverpool's current plight, and especially because there's going to be injuries again. There's nothing to stop. There's no reason why Liverpool have gotten injuries other than overwork or whatever. But when you've had lads out and they've missed pre-season, they're going to miss games throughout that season. Lads who play summer tournaments tend to be more injury prone in the season that follows it. So Liverpool have got to prepare for this. There's not going to be, they can't be wedded to one formation. What Liverpool need to do, and what it looks like they're doing, is creating a much more pragmatic approach, a horses for courses approach, which says, who are we playing? And how do they play? And how best do we exploit that? And so I thought that was really, really interesting, because I don't see a 4-4-2 diamond is not something you play week in, week out. You can't, because it leaves you really exposed in wide areas. Brendan Rodgers had a little sweet spot in 13-14 when it really, really worked for him. But eventually people figure it out and they just nail your fullbacks. You do need guys to cover. Now, Liverpool have got the intelligence. Harvey Elliott was brilliant in his tracking back and the work rate he does for the team. And when Jordan Henderson's full of energy, he can do that as well. The two wide sides, the left and right side of the diamond, can drop in and cover, of course. But what I'm kind of driving is it might be. Maybe we see 4-4-2 diamond more and more. Sorry, room services here. High life. But what it's more likely to be is that Liverpool just find the best way of winning, and we've gone through years and years of being the best and just playing our own style, playing our way and letting other people worry about this. Liverpool have got to get to the World Cup in the best position possible. And if they play pragmatically, and if they play with all the fight and all the endeavour to try and take on a team, like every game is a battle, and you've got your game plan and your battle plan rather than just do your own stuff, do your normal stuff, I think that could pay dividends for Liverpool. So it doesn't matter what formation they're going to play, provided Liverpool have rebooted the attitude. Anyway, that's this. Check out the 888 Sport channel this week. They're talking about the players who've underperformed most this season, and they're trying to say Mo Salah's on that list. Head over there and basically tell them, mate sent me, and that Mo Salah is absolutely brilliant and shouldn't be on. It's Jadon Sancho, by the way. Anyway, listen, thank you so much. Have a wonderful time. More to come from me over the weekend. Light on my eye. Anyway, boss, Amsterdam's boss. I'm having a boss down all of this. Yeah. Don't know if you can see that, but it's been very, very good here. What a perfect away up the Reds.
Okay, Mohamed Salah is not having a good season, but he has been unplayable for 6, and therefore the credit is so in the bank. The quality will come back, I'm sure.
Is he? Will it though?
But there's 3.
Will it though?
I'd say that it's.
I'm asking a general question.
That's what. Do you know what I was about to say there, Flex? Right? I reckon that there's 3 players. You go Salah, Son, Sterling. The talent is there. Are we overestimating? Like, is Jack Grealish as good as we think he is? Is Jadon Sancho as good as we think he is?
No.
Is that the problem then? Or should they be on this list at all? Or are we expecting more?
The reason they're on their list is because one costs 75, one costs...
That's not their fault.
It's not their fault.
That's not their fault.
Unfortunately, it is.
No, they come.
You wouldn't put James Ward-Prowse on this list, would you? Because he's not good enough to
They
be
come.
on this list.
They come with prestige because they've shown. Like when Grealish was at Villa, you can see there's ability there. Don't get me wrong, he was the main man, and it is different. I had my reservations about him going to sit in the first place. Sancho, when he was at Dortmund, he was balling out, he's playing well, frightening Champions League games, doing it.
Goals as well.
You know what I mean? There's enough mileage in their tanks to look at them and say, them taking another step up, right, they've got to be in there.
Two of the biggest teams in world football.
Exactly. So I don't think, to answer, I don't think it's unfair. Okay. What I do want to talk about is Mohamed Salah. If you look at players, right, if you look at players who have signed big contracts, will the willy, won't he kind of thing, Aubameyang, David De Gea, Mo Salah. You've seen it where players have signed and it just wasn't quite the same. I'm not saying he's done and dusted. I'm asking you, as a Liverpool fan, and you guys at home, have we seen the best of Mo Salah? Is it only downwards from here?